for being here today. This is a big day in Illinois. We can't forget to live responsibly, okay? Don't forget that. We know what to do, how to take care of ourselves. But these governor's orders are illegal, so they were ruled that today.
Representative Bailey, Mr. DeVore, Kirk Allen, Edgar County Watchdogs, we're live streaming now all across the state and the country. What do you have as a basic comment to all of the viewers out there after today's ruling?
Well, today's ruling's about accountability. So this judge ruled, held our governor accountable. Our governor, Judge Michael McCaney today ruled essentially that Governor J.B. Pritzker violated his authority under Illinois Constitution. So that's what this is all about, and we can't let this happen anymore. We, the people, this is what this is about. We step up and we say no more. We say this is enough, and we cannot forget that in 2 years this governor is up for re-election. And at that point in time, we, the people, must step in and hold this man accountable. So that's Illinois is desperately lacking for leadership, and it's time that we demand better, and it's time we take back this state, and we can do this.
Thank you, appreciate that. Mr. DeVore, if you could, for the layman out there, could you explain the significance of the denial of count 1 and the granting of count 2 and 3 as to what that means to the people?
I will try. Count 1 had to do with the definition of a disaster. What does it mean to have a disaster by the wording of the Emergency Management Agency Act? That nuance probably only matters to attorneys and to people such as yourself. You can feel that something happened that's not right, but lawyers have to try to make sense of that in a courtroom again, most people will tune it out. But we have to do it. And so in count 1, I merely asked the court to find that we didn't have a disaster by definition of the Emergency Management Agency Act. The definition requires an occurrence or an event. And I argued to the judge, and again, he didn't agree, but that's fine. People can still draw their own conclusions. That the only occurrence that we had on these serial proclamations was that artificial and arbitrary end date that he placed in the first one. Again, the judge still found that at each time these new serial proclamations were issued, that there was a disaster, and he was satisfied that that was good enough. I understand what the court ruled, but I still, again, my opinion is that you might have had a disaster or a public health emergency on those serial proclamations, but that occurrence didn't cause the regeneration of those serial ones. It was that artificial end date. But again, he did not agree on that's fine. Part 2 was a little bit different, but it kind of overlaps in that what the judge said and what we asked him to find is that these serial proclamations, why there may have still been a disaster at that date, you can't create that fiction arbitrarily just to have 30 days of continued power under the Emergency Management Agency Act. He was not going to allow that definition to be utilized by the governor because I believe the judge has been clear all along that if you do that, you have executive fiat until he decides we no longer have a disaster, and the judge was not going to agree with that interpretation. He found that COVID-19 was a disaster, but to that extent, after the first 30 days was up, you can't continue to wield that executive power. The judge ruled that, and the practical effect of that today is that any executive order in effect right now that relates to COVID-19 is invalid and void and does not apply to anybody in the state of Illinois. As to count 3, regardless of this 30-day issue, the question becomes, is under the Constitution or the Emergency Management Agency Act, did the governor ever have the authority to close businesses and to restrict people's movement? That has nothing to do with the 30 days. Did it ever give him that authority? And the judge ruled today the answer was no. Regardless of the 30-day issue, you did not have authority under the Constitution of the state of Illinois or the Emergency Management Agency Act to close people's businesses or to restrict their freedoms and tell them they can leave their house when he thinks they need to leave. Judge said, doesn't go that far, you can't do that.
Amen.